I'm here today with Rachel Morris to discuss some super common questions that people have when they're looking for a mental health professional. So, people want to know when they're looking for help from a mental health professional, are you going to be able to handle my trauma? Or is it going to be maybe too triggering for you? And then I can't even really talk about all the things that happened.
It's definitely healing trauma is my specialty. I want to be clear here that I'm not talking about suppressing trauma. I'm not talking about mitigating trauma. I'm talking about healing trauma.
Okay.
And why do I think trauma can be healed? Well, for starters, I see it in my clients. Secondly, the empirical research is undeniable. If you have the appropriate methods, trauma can be healed. And the third is because I've experienced it. I come from a background of trauma, both childhood trauma and adult trauma. And I literally went into this field because the freedom, the choices, the life changes that I've made because of healing trauma, I want everybody to have that. And so if you're concerned, oh, my trauma can't be healed, I want to say this to you. One, I can hold that. I can hold the trauma that you have. And secondly, I'm totally confident that working together, I have the tools to help you find a way out. So don't be discouraged, because we can get there from here.
Okay. And specifically, do you have tools if I have something really dark that I'm sharing so that you don't get traumatized by it?
I love that question. In other words, what do I do to take care of myself so I don't lose it, or etc.? I have a 37-year track record of inner work, inner research, experience. Again, that's what led me to being a mental health professional. Also, I use a method called IFS, or internal family systems. It works on my clients, but it works on me as well. I work with my own therapist. I have daily practices, and I have an advisor. So if I have a question, I'm not alone in the process. I can go to her and others.
Nice.
So yes, I can handle whatever's coming, and I have the support needed in order to do that. It's a core part of being a mental health professional. It's not just, oh, I think this is going to be good for you, but I'm not going to do it. This is what works in the landscape of a human being.
So, one concern I think people have is that they go try to find help and they end up just talking and talking about their childhood, a lot of times digging into really heavy stuff, and then they're not getting any relief and they're not feeling any better. And sometimes they're even feeling worse because they just dug into all this really heavy stuff.
Yeah, totally. So what I'd say to that is that just talking about our issues can sometimes give us relief in the moment, just to be able to share it, right? Sometimes it can actually make us feel worse, depending. But the bottom line is, I think most of us know that just talking about it doesn't really heal deep trauma. So that's not what people are going to do when they come work with me. The methods that I use are specific. They are about, there's nothing that I'm going to do that doesn't have the end goal in mind. Relief and healing, therapeutic healing. And so that's why I use the methods that I use, is because they safely are able to go into very tender places and not just talk about them, but methodically heal. the trauma.
Wow. Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yeah. For answering that question, I guess I have like a little bit of a second part to that question, which is, let's say some things come up in session that are really heavy, then our session is over and I'm like alone dealing with it, or maybe it's not even about session. I just have really bad anxiety and then I'm on my own with it. Are there, tools you give to your clients or certain homework to help in those situations?
Definitely. So first I want to say that it's my practice that before the end of every session, we check in and we make sure that the person is okay before they leave. Meaning, we're checking in and responding to and answering issues. Many times people will just say, no, I feel fine. But sometimes there's, what about this? So we'll talk about that and get an answer for it before they leave. But the other part of your question is something that I feel strongly about. People come in to work with me, 60 minutes? Then they've got a whole week by themselves. So there's two things. There's one is, how can I feel okay between sessions? And the other part is, how can I continue to progress? How can I get the most bang for my buck? How can I get the most forward motion on this thing that I really want to feel better about? Or not feel better about, but just feel better. So I always give tools and homework between sessions.
Oh, wow.
It's a really important part of the modality, IFS, Internal Family Systems. It's a really important part of that we're continuing to build the healing in between sessions.
Yeah.
And the exercises or the homework or whatever I'm going to give is also about connecting with the part that's feeling fearful, that's feeling so much anxiety or overwhelm. So yeah, that's a crucial part of our work.
Awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
How would you handle when, let's say, nothing noteworthy happens all week? Or maybe I have a lack of childhood memories. How would you address the trauma of what did not happen, like, let's say, neglect?
Okay. Those are actually two really important questions, so I'm going to split them in half.
Okay.
The first part is, I don't have childhood memories, and yet I've got all this anxiety. Yeah. I just want to normalize. It's extremely common for the protective energies of us to keep those memories away from us so we can go on. And so, knowing that, I gently create a safe space so we can access those memories. So, what we know is there's something there. These feelings wouldn't be here without them. And it's totally normal to not know what they are or not have intense things happening or access. The second part of your question is about early childhood neglect. The first thing I want to say before I dive in is that any trauma can be healed. Any trauma. Okay. So that's my reassurance as I go into this topic. The studies, the research show unequivocally that neglect in early childhood has much more severe impacts than almost any other kind of trauma. And we have a tendency to really gaslight ourselves. Like, I didn't get hit or very much or so what's wrong with me? But that's not what the data shows. That's not what tens of thousands of people overlapping studies again and again. The numbers are clear. Neglect is one of the most, if not the most harmful things that can happen to a child and has the largest repercussions later on in life. So we know that. I know that. And so I treat it with respect. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
The next question is kind of a two-part question. Are you formally trained to work with people who are LGBTQ plus and in cultural responsiveness?
Yes and yes. And first I'd like to say I am non-binary. And I'd like to qualify that by saying that the first part of my life, I lived in a patriarchal system, in a woman's body, and that system is not good for anyone, regardless of their identity. So I have experience with that, as well as the experience of what it's like to be in the non-dominant space of being non-binary. The other thing is that I tend to work with both personal experience and a lot of science. And at the latest trauma research convention, I heard some of the most profound numbers for LGBTQ plus people that showed the kinds of harm that are really happening to people, whether they're aware of it or not, the impacts on their lives from living in this culture. So I welcome people with an understanding of the kinds of impacts, and again, non-gaslighting. All right, to answer your second question, yes, I have trained in intercultural sensitivity for years, and most recently with the IFS Institute. One point I like to make is that I live in the United States and I'm white. So that puts me in a dominant culture, in the dominant culture, and I'm not going to know what the experience is of someone, say, who's a person of color. So that's one of my strengths. I know that. I know that I don't know what their experience is. I work with the method, but I also put out on the table that if I say something that feels uncomfortable, I want to hear about it so I can not do that, so I can improve and make this space safe.
So how do I get sessions with you?
So once you decide you want to work with me, then I check my schedule, see where we can work you in that works with your calendar. I send you a link so you can do the intake paperwork on a HIPAA-compliant, secure platform. I do telehealth sessions, so online. I can work with people across the nation and internationally, and we get started.
Awesome.